Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Andy Grosskopf. I'm president of Scottsbluff County Farm Bureau. I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight. I'd like to introduce Jay Ferris. He's the director of our grassroots organization, and he will be our moderator tonight. So, Jay?
Thank you, Andy. Well, good evening and welcome. I think this is a great showing for people that want to come out and listen to their representatives and future representatives, get to know their views, understand their views while you're making an informed decision before the election. And while I welcome you here, I do want to welcome our candidates that we have this evening. And we're going to start with the NRD race. We have 4 different races we're going to have a forum for this evening. We're going to start with NRD, and then we have 3 different county commissioner races. So before we begin, let's show our appreciation and a round of applause for all of the candidates that are running this evening. For the NRD race that we're going to start off with, we have them up front, but we have Ryan Reuter, Trevor Schneider, Josh Smith, and Sam Somerville. And I believe there is another candidate that was not able to be here this evening. And I believe that was Stephen Dolberg. So, that is another name that you will see on the ballot, but he is not here this evening, so he had other commitments. So we're going to start off, give each candidate 2 minutes to kind of introduce themselves with their opening statement, and we're going to start with Ryan. So you can, and we probably need to turn that mic on. There you go. Good evening. Try it again.
Good evening.
There you are.
My name is Ryan Reuter. I am a candidate for Sub-District 1 with the North Platte Natural Resource District. In March of this year, I was appointed to the director seat vacated by Gerald Dillman. I'm employed with Kelly Bean as a plant manager. And this is a very important position. There are a lot of issues concerning water quality, erosion, and just it's a very intense position. It's one that I believe I am well suited for with informed decisions. I'm past graduate or alumnus of the Nebraska LEAD program, having went through that. Currently, as of Thursday, I will be a graduate of Leadership Scottsbluff, and it's just a lot of things that have led me to this position, have led me to wanting to run for this. I believe that it's important that we have a voice for Western Nebraska with groundwater, with all of our natural resources, and a strong voice, because the decisions that we make here are eyeballed by the rest of the state. And I would appreciate your vote on May 15th, and thank you for your consideration. Thank you.
Okay. Next we have and we will, to save time, let's hold our applause until we gave them applause to begin with, and we'll hold it until the end, and we'll give them all a nice round of applause. So next we have Trevor Schneider with your opening statement.
Hi, everyone. First off, thank you to the Farm Bureau for putting this on and having us all here today. I think this is a tremendous opportunity. My name is Trevor Schneider, and I'm running for the Board of Directors of the NRD in Sub-District 1. My wife, Kristen, and I farm and ranch north of Morrill and Henry. I decided to run for this board because I truly believe that some of the decisions that will be made in the coming years will greatly affect agriculture in our district. And as a young farmer, I might be dealing with those decisions for the rest of my career. I felt it was my responsibility to be involved, not only for my future, but also for other young producers like me and the next generation. My family has farmed and irrigated with groundwater in this area for 4 generations, and currently a large portion of my farm is solely reliant on groundwater. So you can be sure that I'll be committed to protecting and ensuring the availability of that groundwater both now and into the future. I realize that conservation and allocation are necessary to meet water flows demands for downstream regulated by the state for us. However, I believe that further reductions in allocations would be very harmful to our area farmers and our local economy, and I will work to find other options to meet downstream demands. And as an ag landowner, I am very aware of Nebraska's high property taxes. So you can be sure that I will be working to keep the budget conservatively used and prevent any unnecessary tax hikes brought on by the NRD. So as a farmer like many of you, we share a common interest. Please consider voting for me on May 15th.
Okay. Thank you, Trevor. And now Josh Smith with your opening comment.
My name is Joshua Smith. I grew up here in Gering. Lived here all my life. Moved to Morrill about 12 years ago. Lived there with my wife Brooke and our 2 kids. I am a partner owner of Dynas Irrigation. Been there for about 10 years. I have a passion for agriculture and irrigation and passion for this area and the things that the NRD does. I care very much about the farmers and ranchers in this area. And I feel that I felt very interested in doing what I could to serve my community and some of my customers and do what I could to help make sure that this place is good for several future generations, just as it has been for several in the past. I'm going to be here probably the rest of my life doing the same thing for the rest of my life, and I'm just interested in doing what I can to do my part and try to be a good steward of the land. I'd appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. And now Sam Somerville with your opening comment.
I'm Sam Somerville, and I'm born and raised and grew up here. Was around the agriculture end of things all my life. I fed cattle, farmed a few years, and then I kind of drifted off into the land leveling business and landscaping, and learned a lot about how to conserve our flatlands and our waterlands, and how water flows. And I'm not a very good orator here. I'm not real flowery about that, but out in the field, I know what I'm doing. I've been there, I've done that. I've been in every situation you could be in. I've worked with every government agency there is. There's a lot of good programs out there. I think some of them we're missing out on, and we need to get involved with them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Okay, the first question, we're going to let all the candidates answer these questions, but we're going to kind of start as a round robin. And Trevor, this one is going to be directed to you first. It is, why do you want to serve on the NRD board, and what skills do you bring to the table?
Well, like I said before, I want to serve on this board because this board is going to be something that has some regulation and maybe make some decisions that's going to affect my future. And so I feel like I need to get involved and be a part of that instead of just sitting back and watching what happens. As far as skills go, I'm a farmer, so I understand the groundwater system in our area and how it works. And I also served on this past summer the drought committee through the NRD, where I learned a lot. And I have plenty to learn, and I will learn, and I will be a good candidate.
Okay. Thank you. Now, same question to Josh.
My response is probably similar to Trevor's. I've got 10 years of experience working in irrigation. I understand the groundwater and how all that works around here fairly decently. I know I've worked with probably a lot of people in this room on various water projects. I feel like a lot of my skills are probably fairly water oriented, but I know a lot about pumps. I know a lot about water levels. I know a lot about regulations, allocation, that kind of thing. I mostly just want to be elected because I just want to serve and I want to be involved in things that are going to affect my future and the industry that I work in and will probably be working in until I retire. And I just want to do my part and be involved and grow and learn new things.
Okay, thank you, Josh. And now, Sam, same question to you.
Yeah. Well, like we've all said, we've all got experience here. Mostly I got a real heavy background in grading with a lot of, like I said, landscape. I've even finished golf courses, and if you know anything about them, everything has to be crooked and run downhill. So, and believe me, some of them get to be a nightmare. You know, we got our grass programs. There's a lot of places around here that's going to be needing seeding. And, you know, we got to look into the future more than anything. What's here is here now, but what's coming up is what we got to be able to foresee and take care of that before it becomes a big problem. And like I say, I can hit it on the ground going. I can't sit here and tell you much because I'm not good at telling everybody, but come talk to me one-on-one and I'll be glad to answer what I can for you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sam. And now Ryan, same question back to you.
The real reason I wanted to serve is it's protecting the future for future generations, is looking at the impact that the NRD not just has on agriculture, the impact that it has on recreation, the impact that it has on the city of Scotts Bluff and all the surrounding cities in the NRD, the impact it has on business. And as you look at the things that are coming down the pipe, there are a lot of tough decisions that need to be made. And it's those decisions where you have to sit back and think, and I believe my ability to sit and analyze situations, to look at that and to gather all the information and make the best decision. That's not just it that will impact agriculture, because that's one thing that, well, it helps feed my family, agriculture, and it has fed my family for generations. But it also has to be able to impact Scottsbluff, Gering, Baird, Bridgeport, Broadwater, Mitchell, Morrill, those things too. And it's a grand scope, and you have to think conservatively, which I am, but we also have to think for more than just what's in front of us. We have to think down the road quite a ways.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Now the next question we're going to start with Josh. And this question is, explain your understanding of the district's Integrated Management Plan, IMP, and the Platte Basin-wide plan.
Well, to be honest, I probably don't have a whole lot of understanding about that, actually. There's a lot of things that I still have yet to learn when it comes to some of the things that the NRD does, and I'm slowly learning that, and I'm more interested in what I can do in the future, and I guess I don't have a very straight answer on that one, honestly. Okay. I wish I did.
Okay, Josh, same question, or to Sam, same question for you.
Yeah, kind of basic. I only got a very basic idea about what that plan is, but in a nutshell, about what I know is we have to keep our water running right, and we have to get so much to the other end to the other guys to fulfill our obligation on the other end. But, you know, like I said, I don't know a whole lot more than that, other than, yeah, well, I guess that's it. No, thanks.
Hey, Sam, Ryan, same question for you.
I have a little bit of background, having been seated for the last 2 months. I know with the Integrated Management Plan, the return flow to the river is 8,000 acre-feet a year. So I know we are the only NRD in the state that has met that mandate. We have exceeded that mandate by quite a bit. The IMP, the first increment goes through 2019, which is fast approaching the end of that. The second increment might be substantially higher. And so those are things that we need to be thinking about as we go down the road and look towards the future, that how much further are we going to be going with that. And it is a lot of planning and a lot of data that is collected through the NRD to help manage those flows back to the river.
Okay, Trevor, same question for you.
I have a fairly basic knowledge of the IMP. Most of what I learned was through the drought committee program that I was involved in with this last summer. And I'm aware that it was the same thing that this man here said, that we were required by the state to return so many acre-feet of water downstream per year. And then I knew that there was a first phase and a second phase, and we're finishing our first phase and beginning on our second. And the first phase we were able to meet these requirements by the state by implementing moratoriums on well drilling, as well as allocations on groundwater usage. As far as the Platte Basin Plan, I believe that one had to do with some of the wildlife downstream and some habitat for them. But that's my knowledge of the plan.
Okay. Thank you, Josh. Or Trevor. Okay, we're going to start down with Sam is the next one online here for this question. Okay, with this question, what partnerships with other organizations, such as municipal, conservation groups, wildlife groups, game and parks, etc., would you like to see the NRD pursue?
Well, probably ought to work some with all of them, but really when we should kind of work with the parks departments to kind of make sure everybody stays in queue. And, we don't want nobody getting ahead of each other and starting fights and causing problems. And, like I say, everybody's got to get along.
Okay, Ryan?
Current partnerships that we do have right now are with the National Nebraska Forest Service. We also have partnerships with NRCS, and we also have partnerships with, believe it or not, local schools. There's a lot of outreach things that we do with kids. We have a lot of people that are, the one person on staff, right now he's, by the end of the school year, he'll be in front of close to 2,000 kids talking about conservation and talking about soil, trees, water. I believe we need to not only work with our landowners with groundwater, but I think we need to work on some of our relationships with the business and industry that we have in the area. One of the big water users that comes to mind is probably Western Sugar, and just be cognizant of their uses and what they need and how that all works.
Okay, Trevor, your question?
As Ryan said, there's a lot of good partnerships that NRD has now that I was made aware of, and I think that's a good thing, especially the educational thing that he was talking about. That's a really important thing for the next generation of students to understand how groundwater works in our area. This is a special area. I think it's pretty unique compared to a lot of different regions. But as far as other partnerships that I would like to see, the biggest thing I would like to see would be for us to reach out to other NRDs and encourage them to also conserve groundwater. We're sending that 8,000 acre-feet of water downstream every year to producers downstream that can pump and drill wherever and however they want. And so that would be one of the things that I would be looking at. And I would also like to have some more partnerships with the municipalities. I know the NRD works a lot with the cities and stuff, but like Scottsbluff and Gering currently, I believe the more water you use, the cheaper rate you get. So that just does not make sense to me. So I would like to see more work done with municipalities.
Okay, thank you, Trevor. Josh, your question.
I think Western Sugar was one maybe I was kind of thinking of a little bit too. They do use a lot of water, and I know they return a lot of it, and it would be kind of interesting to see where that might go. I can't really think of any other organizations that I would like to necessarily see the NRD partner up with. They do a lot of collaboration already. I know a lot of what Trevor said too, just other NRDs, maybe as much as we can. They already do work together quite a bit, but just a lot of it is just getting along with your neighbors downstream.
Okay. Thank you, Josh. And now for our next question, we're going to bring the microphone back up here to Ryan. He gets to start this one. And this is going to be the last question. We're running into about a 30-minute time frame for each of these. We will let them have a few thoughts for their closing comments after this question, but this next question, given the recent actions by the state legislature on LB 98, funding cuts in state and federal grant program, and the economic downturn in the state's agriculture sector, there is anticipation of funding issues for NRDs. But mandates don't stop even though the funding does. How do you plan to handle meeting the obligations under the North Platte NRD's Integrated Management Plan and the Platte Basin-wide plan?
Well, that's a hot topic. We all know that our property taxes are an issue. LB 98 was, as we all know, hotly contested also. It was a tool that the NRDs used to, when they needed. It wasn't necessarily a tax that was levied all the time, but it was a tool that was there to be used when needed. The NRD, I know in the past couple of years, has been looking at the economic downturn, has been trying to cut the budget as much as they can. If you've looked at your property taxes, the NRD's asking from you actually went down. The NRD did cut $700,000 out of their budget from last year, which is a tremendous amount when you think about it. It's rough. It's over 10% of their budget. So we need to be cognizant of how we're spending our dollars. We also need to look at private sources for funding, such as grants, which they do a marvelous job of already, but just have to learn to stretch a dollar even further.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Trevor?
Yeah, the mandate's going to be there no matter whether the tax dollar's there or not. And frankly, our property tax situation is out of control in this state. So there is no way that, even a little bit more is too much. So we have to find different ways of meeting those demands. And some of them, perhaps grants and stuff. I know the NRD does a lot with them, but I'm sure there's more out there that can be sought out. And budget cuts are always something that can be looked at. So that's where I would be going, looking for funds.
Okay, thank you, Trevor. And Josh?
Well, I can't say that I have a specific plan on how to deal with any current funding issues. I do know I'm not generally in favor of any type of taxes increase. I think that I would be looking for more proactive ways once I was in and had a little bit more knowledge of what was going on, some things that might be able to be done. I don't necessarily feel like I have a plan right now that I'm going to go in there and just start, acting like I know everything about what's going on or what I'm going to do to try to solve a current funding issue. But I can say I'm not for a lot more property taxes either necessarily, because they are pretty high. But
okay, thank you, Josh. And now Sam.
Well, life can be very simple, but have you ever looked at a government program that wasn't extravagant? There's a lot of very simple ways to do things that are very inexpensive. And, there's always those programs in there that are doing nothing. You're throwing trainloads of money at. You get rid of those. And, you can always keep looking for funding. Somewhere you'll find something. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sam. And now we're going to end with our closing comments. And Trevor, you get to start that off, and we're just going to do a minute and a half. But if you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with the group, now is your opportunity. So here's for closing comments.
Well, thank you all for coming here and listening to us today. This is important. This is a good thing that the Farm Bureau is doing. It's good to get to know your candidates, so I appreciate you listening to me. But I would really appreciate your vote on May 15th. I will do a good job for you, and you know, I am running for the area's farmers. This is what I do. This is my passion and my future, and I believe that by advocating for agriculture in our area, you know, I'm not just supporting farmers and agriculture people. This is what drives our economy. So you know, this is something that's necessary to us, and the NRD is an important job. So please think and vote. As a farmer, like many of you, my interests are your interests. So please consider voting for me.
Thank you, Trevor. Josh, your closing comments.
I just wanted to thank everybody for coming out and listening to what we had to say. One thing I can say is I'm actually kind of glad at the amount of interest there has been in this seat, just because it's good to know that there's a lot of people that care. It is a very important position. They have a lot of responsibilities. It can be a really tough job. There's a lot of decisions that have been made and that need to be made in the future that one way or another probably aren't going to make somebody happy. But it's just good to see that there are people that are interested, like I am, in just doing their part, and that's pretty much what I want to do. I just want to be involved. I want to learn. I want to grow. I want to be a part of my community and do what I can to make sure that all of our resources and everything in this wonderful area is here for many generations to come.
Okay. Thank you. And Sam?
Yeah. I'd like to thank y'all for coming to start with and for listening to me stutter all night. The only thing I can tell you is you know there were going to be more budget cuts and this and that. And if anybody knows me, I run the low overhead. So I see a few laughing there. So I know how to keep costs down, that's for sure. Appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sam. And Ryan.
Just like everybody else said, I want to thank everybody for coming tonight to listening to the views of the candidates. I want to thank the Scottsbluff County Farm Bureau for putting on this forum so we can have good discussion about the issues that are at hand. I believe I would like to ask you to vote for me. The issues at hand are complex. The things that we're fighting for are for local control. And being the first one on the North Platte, all the arrows from Lincoln head this way. So we have to have a strong voice. We have to have a firm backbone, and I know I have that. I'm not afraid to stand up for my beliefs, the beliefs of the constituents in Scottsbluff County and in the NRD. So I would appreciate your vote on May 15th, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan. Let's show all of the candidates our appreciation for their